A few weeks ago, TTARTISAN reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing the 35mm f0.95 aperture for the Canon RFS mount. And of course, I had to say yes because I've never shot anything wider than 1.2. So 0.95, although on an APS-C, is definitely going to be interesting. So today, we are going to be unboxing this. We're going to be doing some photos, some video, and then we're going to come back in here and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. If you are looking for a 1970s and 80s feel when it comes to your photography, well, this is the lens for you. It gives you that feeling, at least that was for me. It kind of brought me back to that era of film cameras. You know, the nostalgic sound in the background and hippies doing hippie things and me taking a picture like I went back in time. That's the feeling of this lens. And so we're gonna unbox it right now, take some test photos, do some video, and then come back in here and I'm gonna give you my final thoughts and feelings because this lens definitely gives you feelings. This is the TTARTISAN 35mm f0.95, less than an f1. A lot of us are used to the 1.2, or I'm really not used to it, but we're used to hearing about the 1.2 of Canon, but this is less. Now, this is specifically for an APS-C, so you're not gonna get that full frame look, but this is going to be an interesting lens to look at. Now, first off, I will say the box that it's in is a pretty nice box. It doesn't look, you know, like a low quality box. It has kind of a nice little felt feeling of it. It also says RF right there, which, you know, it's good. It's good to know that I have the RF. Let's lift this up. 35mm f0.95. They put an archaic old camera right there. This looks dated. I mean, this looks and feels old, but it's not. I kind of like that vintage look. I mean, check it out. I feel like I'm back as a kid when I'm looking at all this gear again. Guessing that's what this lens is going to feel like. It's going to feel like an old vintage lens. And so now we're here to the lens. You think there's packaging out there that's not going to make this loud noise. So first impression without taking the lens caps off, it feels like a heavy piece of metal. This thing, it's kind of a rock. It is, there's all these concave grooves in them. There is the back element. So again, this is 100% manual. Now, the front element, the lens cap is screw on, and I'm not sure what to think of that. It's flat, it's kind of basic looking. You know, if somebody came across this, they may not even know what this is because it doesn't have that typical front lens cap look. Wow, the glass is huge. For an APS-C, that is a large piece of glass. Now that is pretty cool. I do like the clicks you get with the aperture ring. Now it isn't as smooth as I got on the Nisi, but this is got definitive clicks. And so you've got the 0.95 to the 1.4, 2, and then all the way to f16. So you've got that manual look. Now, this reminds me of an old vintage lens. This will be very interesting on how it handles on the Canon R7, what kind of look you get. I'm not expecting sharp, but I am expecting something unique and different than you would get on a typical Canon RF lens. And sometimes that uniqueness is what you want because you want to stand out and look a little different, and sharpness isn't always the case. So let's see what that's going to be like on this. Now, this is the Canon R6 Mark II, but this will give you an idea because the R7 isn't much smaller than this. They're very similar in size, and so this is what that lens is going to look like on there. It fits very nice, snug. It is dinky. It's a little stubby dude right on there. And then you've got your focus. Everything is dampened very nicely with this. It's smooth. It's like those vintage lenses. You've got that specific measurement on here. Wow, this lens is definitely a lot different than I thought it was going to be, and in a good way. It is sharper than I thought it was going to be at 0.95. The look is a lot more interesting. I love the contrast. I don't think it's bad at all. If you're looking for a lens that gives you that vintage feel and look, then I would say the TTARTISAN 35mm 0.95 is the route to go, and here specifically with the Canon RFS mount. Now, it will work on the R5 or the R6 or the R6 II, just in crop mode, but it is designed for an APS-C. The 0.95 does give enough bokeh and look that really is unique to your camera. This thing is huge. It almost looks like a monocle, like I'm the Monopoly guy, but I'm not the Monopoly guy. I'm just a dude who likes lenses that give you that kind of vintage look with more of a modern feel and quality, actually. The sharpness is better than you probably would get on a vintage lens from the 1970s or 80s, but now you've got that way of going. Now, over the last few weeks, I have been really enjoying this, and I've not done anything professional with this, but more on the hobbyist end with my kids and just playing around with it outside. It has a unique look and feel to it, and yet kind of similar. If you've ever used vintage lenses, this has the weight and the feel of the vintage lens, but with a modern look to it. And I do appreciate that and like that. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't have weather sealing, so you don't want to be out in the rain with it. But for most of us, that's not a big deal anyway. The link to this will be in the description below because I do recommend it. This is definitely an excellent lens. It gives you a unique feeling. And at 0.95, I was actually shocked on how sharp it is. This is my advice though. You're gonna have to use focus peaking or punch in quite a bit when you're doing some of those photos to make sure they're in focus. Because there's times that I thought I was in focus and I wasn't and it was blurred out. But the times that I hit focus just perfectly, boy, it was sharp. If you found this review helpful, please like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And there will be some more reviews. Trust me, there's more coming. And if you're sad that the video is over, well, check out one of those videos because Google told you to. That's right. Google told me to tell you that too. They've been watching you. Just watch one of these videos and they'll leave you alone.